Welcome to STARS Launch Pod, where we chat with innovators who are overcoming challenges, pushing boundaries, and collaborating to make space more accessible and sustainable for humanity, one launch at a time.
It's one small step for man.
Here's your host, Susan Wise.
Welcome to STARS Launch Pod, Space Technology and Research Sciences, brought to you by starsciences.org, where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. My name is Susan Wise. I'm your host, and joining us today is Gordon Roesler, former DARPA program leader and now president of Robots in Space, his consulting firm. Hi, Gordon, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Susan. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit more about your background, and then I want you to tell me what you're working on right now to further the space industry.
Well, 23 years ago, I joined DARPA for the first time and asked the question, what could we do to help the satellites that are up there that today are never inspected, never repaired, never maintained, never have new stuff added to them? And so we started a research program back then in 2002 to prove that one satellite could connect to another using robot. And by 2005, we'd showed in the laboratory that that worked. So then we started building a robot arm that could fly into space. That's actually harder than it sounds. And then back in 2014, they asked me to come back and actually build one to go into space, build a whole satellite with robotic arms and cameras and tools and all that stuff, computers and radios that could go out and add value to them, fix them, inspect them, add new stuff to them. And that satellite is going to launch in 2026. It's been a while. It's been a long program. There's a lot of hard technology stuff.
That's amazing because if you have a satellite out there and if something happens, it would just become space junk. And then there's more and more and more of that. So it's good that you can go up there and fix it and still utilize it.
Exactly. Plus, imagine somebody gave you a job. They said, hey, you're going to be in charge of this giant, building or ship or something like that. It's worth $500 million. You got to keep it going for 10 years and you can never inspect it. You can never maintain it. It's like, no, don't want the job. Thanks. But that's what we do in space today.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's pretty amazing. That's very cool. Tell me more about the robots and how that actually, I'm trying to visualize how that works. So you have somebody, manning the controls, on Earth.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Wow.
No, they do it. It does it itself. I mean, the humans help it to get close to its customer satellite, but then the final approach and docking is done by the satellite by itself. So there's a lot of software in there, making sure that the grab is safe, figuring out if something's going wrong and it can back out by itself. So no, it's not somebody with a joystick sitting here.
That's what I was visualizing.
Yeah, no, because that's dangerous, right? If the satellite, the customer starts to move, like one of its thrusters fires or something like that, you don't have time for a human to scratch their head and go, gee, what's going on here? The robot has the authority to do that by itself.
So say you've got a project and you take care of this project up there with a satellite and you're all done. Does it come back to Earth? Does it just hang out in space till you have the next job to work on?
It hangs out.
Okay.
It hangs out. The project that we built at DARPA was called Robotic Servicing of Geosynchronous Satellites. So that means we're in the geo orbit, 22,000 miles up. So we're not coming back from there.
Okay.
Right? That would just take too much fuel and no way to get back through the atmosphere. Instead, because all the satellites are in one ring, it's easy to get from one to another. So we built this robot to last 10 to 15 years so that it can serve multiple customers and do multiple things for people.
This robotic, have you made a way to use it here on Earth, like maybe doing my household chores for me or something like that?
So let's ask the question in the other direction. What would it take to take a household robot or a fancy industrial robot and move it into space? And that's really hard because space is a vacuum, so there's nothing to cool it. And so when the sun hits it, it gets super hot.
Mm-hmm.
When the sun doesn't hit it, it gets super cold.
Right.
Also, because of the vacuum, arcs can jump from one place to the other and damage electronics. There's radiation out there that your home vacuum robot isn't experiencing, but that can wipe out the electronics that are controlling it. So designing a robot for space is much, much harder than designing the ones that are on the Earth.
About one of your biggest aha moments where you're like, yes, or that was it.
So that was in about 2002. I had helped DARPA as a consultant to plan this experiment called Orbital Express. Kind of sounds like FedEx. It was an experiment that went into space, 2 satellites. They docked to each other repeatedly, again, with no commands from the ground. This is all done in an autonomous way. Replaced a battery with the robot arm, replaced a processor module with the robot arm. But you see, that pseudo customer satellite needed to be specially designed to take the fuel, to take the processor and all that sort of stuff. The aha moment was, what can we do for satellites that weren't designed to be serviced, that weren't designed with modules? Is there anything useful we can do? And the first thing we came up is just docking with them and moving them. Mm-hmm. So why is that valuable? Well, you talk about debris, so that's one reason. We don't want, like if a satellite does croak, run out of fuel or break or something like that, we would like to move it out of its useful orbit into a graveyard. But also, that means we can use up all of its fuel and it can work longer without being refueled. Now, today we're working on actually refueling, but the aha moment was, what can we do for satellites that aren't built to be refueled? That was 23 years ago.
Wow, that's exciting. Wow, that is awesome. And over these years, I'm sure you've had challenges, there are opportunities to grow. It's what I always say. But what was one of your biggest challenges? What sticks out in your mind, and how did you overcome that challenge?
The challenge was people who I thought ought to be interested in servicing satellites in space saying, oh, that technology is too hard. That's just not the way we do business. And there's not really any business case for that. That was, in the early 2000s, that was the response. In 2022, the White House, the Office of Science and Technology Policy, issued a national strategy for doing this stuff and said, we are going to do this. And here's what defense is going to do. And here's what NASA is going to do, and so forth. So that's 20 years from the aha moment to the White House, telling people we're going to do this. So that's when I was like,
yep,
okay, my work here is done.
And with more and more satellites going up all the time, there's a need. There is definitely a need for what you're doing.
There's a need to get rid of the big ones that are going to become debris, for sure. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of economic value to adding new stuff to existing satellites.
Right.
There's a small company that I consult to. It's called Catalyst Space Technologies, and that's Catalyst with a K. Okay. They just got a $30 million award from NASA to build a robot to go up into space and attach to the Neil Swift Observatory, which is a satellite that's coming closer and closer to Earth because the atmosphere is dragging it down, and boost it up so it can work longer. This is a very high risk mission, very, very challenging and that sort of thing. But imagine what we're going to learn. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't work out exactly right, imagine the fact that now we can take things that would have been debris, and in this case, we're going to push it up so the observatory keeps working, but we could just as easily push it down to deorbit it so that it doesn't become debris later. Really excited for Catalyst and their partners. And this is going to be very exciting.
When does that happen?
I think they're looking at a launch next year.
It's exciting. I'll be watching that.
You bet.
Do you have a piece of advice that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, never quit. Right. If you can see the value in something, you just have to keep talking to folks, and you just have to keep saying it over and over again. You can use this. This is useful to you. It adds value. It's gonna help you achieve your goals, and just keep that record player playing. I'm old enough to remember what record players are. Well, I guess vinyl's making a comeback now, but that would be it. It is like, be persistent.
And before we wrap up, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story with us, do you have a passion project, whether it's past or even something in the present that you want to talk about?
You bet. So you remember that I talked about that experiment that flew in 2007 called Orbital Express.
Mhm.
That was supposed to show people how to do logistics in space, right? So we got UPS and Postal Service and FedEx and all that kind of thing. And we have the big container ships that take things across the ocean and trucks and trains. The economy would be nowhere without logistics. So in space, we don't have a logistics network. All we have is a rocket that goes up, drops off one satellite. That's our logistics train. My passion is to build a whole network in space from low Earth orbit all the way out to the moon and every orbit in between. So GPS orbits, GEO, the gateway that's going to go at the Lagrange point near the moon, bringing resources back from the moon. So it's a two-way logistics network. And I really think that the whole community, the defense community, NASA, and the commercial space sector ought to get together and build this that everybody can use.
We need somebody directing traffic up there. In other
There's
words,
that too. That's a whole different subject, is making sure things don't hit each other, right? But yeah,
exactly. It's getting more and more crowded, and it's not going to change. It's only growing.
looks like the Department of Commerce is taking that mission on. They're taking over from the Space Force, the space traffic management thing. So that's coming.
This is exciting stuff, Gordon. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with us. And we'd love to check back in with you in a few months and see what's new.
You bet. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
We sure enjoyed you. Thank you. All right. Be sure to join us where we connect, collaborate, and accelerate. And we'd like you to join us at starsciences.org and receive a free 1-year membership. Just enter the promo code FRIENDS321. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review and subscribe. And until then, keep looking up.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on social media. Stars Launch Pod, propelling us forward, one launch at a time.